Big time guest, a first round guest in Larry Krueger on today's program, but we're talking day 3 prospects and of course the latest with the drama that is Deebo Samuel coming up on this episode of Locked On 49ers right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock, Eric Crocker, and Larry Krueger coming at you on today's episode at BD Peacock, at Eric_Crocker, and at Sports Larry K on Twitter is where you can find all of us and holler at us. And if you don't like something that one of us says, don't let us know. I don't want to hear about that part. I want to hear how great you did today's podcast. Larry, what's happening, man? Never a dull moment in 49ers coverage, right? Like, this is crazy. And by the way, I want to congratulate you and welcome you to the YouTube world and the new Larry Krueger show, the Krug Show. I've been on there. Fantastic for you joining us here. Appreciate you and love the new channel and the new show. So welcome.
Appreciate it. Yeah, and I'm glad to be here. You know, it's always fun talking Niners, and man, it's never boring, right? They always give us something to talk about.
It's pretty unbelievable. It's like clockwork. Crocker and I do this show daily, and it's sometimes like, what are we going to talk about Wednesday? And it's like, oh, Deebo Samuel requests a trade. Well, I know what we're talking about today. It's just like clockwork. Every episode, there's something. Is Alex Mack going to retire? It's pretty amazing what the 49ers and what the NFL really gives us year round, but especially the 49ers right now. Last offseason, it was all, who are the 49ers going to draft number 3? And it was really like everyone was trying to tell us it was Mac Jones. That's what was going on a calendar year. Now it's like, oh my gosh, you're going to trade Deebo before the draft. Got to ask you. And the latest, by the way, that we didn't cover on our live Wednesday show was Deebo Samuel checking in and saying that reporters are going to report what they want, but the only folks that really know what's going on is the 49ers and my agent and me. And that's pretty much it. And it's like, okay, then tell us what it is, because he didn't say what's going on. So, Larry, can you fill us in? Like, what the heck is going on with Deebo Samuel? Could the 49ers really entertain that trade?
Well, it seemed, God, I mean, it's the fact that we're here, it just shows that a lot of things have happened. I mean, I've been talking about this for a few weeks. I mean, just look at just kind of read the tea leaves. I mean, the market has exploded for wide receivers. Thank you, Trent Baalke, for giving Christian Kirk so much money. And Deebo was used as a running back, and Parag's a really tough negotiator. And the 49ers have never spent anything close to $70 million guaranteed on any player, regardless of position. And it sounds like that's the money he's got coming his way. Now we're hearing rumblings that he doesn't like his role. Well, you know what? I wouldn't like my role either if that role caused the negotiator for my team to not pay me. And that's, I think, where we're at. So I think Deebo was fine. He's a competitor. He was fine being used in the role that he was used in because he's all about the win. He's all about getting the W. But I think once the Niners used him in that role, it was kind of incumbent on them to pay him top dollar or to communicate really well along the way. And they either didn't communicate really well along the way, or they have no intent on paying him anywhere close to the kind of money the top wide receivers are getting around the league right now. And so because of it, he's scrubbed his social media, and he can say we're making this story up all he wants, but we're not. And ultimately, I think it's going to come down to either he's going to back off of his asking price dramatically, or he's going to get dealt.
He also had a reporter come out and say, I spoke with Deebo Samuel, and this is what he says. And then Deebo Samuel comes out and tweets, and I think he has since deleted, but he's like, yeah, they don't know what they're talking about. It's like, well, this guy says he spoke to you. So one of you guys are lying. And I would assume that a reporter isn't going to just make that up out of nowhere. Not to that extent.
Yeah, I mean, I bet Darlington got at him and was like, you can't challenge what you told me, because first of all, I was recording it, or I've got like an email, or I've got my DMs here to prove it anyways. So I don't know what you're trying to talk about. So yeah, it's just like an extra layer of what the heck is going on here, and why the cloak and dagger too from Deebo. If it's like, okay, if you want to set the record straight, then do it. But he didn't tell us anything there. He's just like, the only people that know are us. And it's like, well, you can't negotiate in the public and then not like the answers that you're getting back from the public, right? So that's kind of what I like. Look, we as media and really especially the fans are who lose in this whole situation. You probably they don't want to see how the sausage is made, right, Larry? Because that's when it starts to get ugly, because you're a fan and you're paying money for jerseys, you're paying money for tickets, and you love this player, and all of a sudden he says he doesn't want to play for your team. Like, that's a road you don't really want to go down unless you're really serious and it's irreparable and you have to go somewhere else.
I think just the nature of contract talks, it's fluid. What is Parag Marate's job? His job is to sign the players for as little as possible. And what's the agent's job? The people at CAA, their job is to make sure that their client gets, market value. And so, what is market value? And to me, I would say market value is close. He's a top tier receiver, and the top tier receivers are getting, a lot of money guaranteed, a lot more than the 49ers have ever paid. So they can either adjust and pay market value, or they can, I guess, they can tell Deebo, hey, you know what, stick it. You're under contract, but that wouldn't be wise. And or they can trade him. And I think there'll be a pretty healthy market for his services, but that's only if AJ Brown and some of these other receivers that might be in a similar situation don't get traded first. Because if those guys get traded first, maybe there isn't a team out there that's willing to give you any sort of blockbuster value and draft picks for a trade. So I think this is fluid. And I think also if the 49ers want to get a trade and they want a good trade, they better be decisive, because there's other teams out there and there's other players out there, and the market could change dramatically, and they could be on the outside looking in with an unhappy player that they don't want to pay, and not a lot of options in the trade market.
I think that's the big part right there that you just said, basically a disgruntled player on their hands that they don't want to pay whatever he feels like he's worth. And a lot of fans are pushing back and saying, well, Deebo Samuel has no leverage. He has no leverage. And I'm like, well, his leverage is that he has come out or reportedly said, I want to be traded. And it was like a week ago. So that was news as well, kind of reading that report. I believe it was Ian Rappaport saying, yeah, this has been out there for a week or so now. And that would align with some teams pitching offers to the 49ers. But the leverage is a player on your team that doesn't want to be there. So how do you handle that situation?
By the way, yeah. Benjamin Albright, in the a radio guy in the Denver area, who's pretty plugged in, he's heard that the 49ers asking price is basically, you can't afford this price, but they put an amount out there, and it's basically astronomical if a team wants to come trading for Deebo Samuel, which tells them where they're at. And like, I get the leverage thing, and the 49ers do have leverage. He's under contract, and the new CBA, it's really hard for players to hold out. So this could get ugly. And one of the things I look at, and you talked about the agents trying to get the most for their players, one of the things that the agents are doing is artificially puffing up the numbers. They give Tyreek Hill a deal where the last year of his contract has $45 million that he's never going to see. So, then the agent, puffs his chest out and says, look, we got $28 million per year for Tyreek Hill. And it's like, well, no, you didn't. You got less than $25 million per year for Tyreek Hill, and everyone knows it. But the other agents now see that number and they go with 28 million and say, okay, we should get this for Deebo. And then, a level-headed person in negotiations is going to look at that and say, no, that person is never going to see that money. And we can give you a $50 million year at the end of your contract if you want, but you'll get cut before that happens. And then we won't be able to re-sign you then, because we'll have to cut you because of that poison pill year, just to artificially puff up the AAV. So there's a lot of that going on right now. So you don't even know what market value is, because the contracts aren't really the contracts that these guys are actually going to cashed. Like those checks won't be cashed. And then you've got the usage situation, and then you've got, where's the sliding scale? Okay, if you want the most per year, maybe there's less guaranteed. If you want more guaranteed, maybe less per year. So there's actually a ton going into this negotiation that looks now a lot more difficult than it looked 2 months ago.
Well, and I would disagree that he doesn't have leverage. Just because he's under contract doesn't mean he doesn't have leverage. His talent is his leverage. His percentage of the offense is his leverage. The fact that they view themselves as a Super Bowl contender this year is his leverage. I mean, they can't franchise tag him. So what? He's not going to get the long-term payout. How do you think he's going to react next time you want to use him as a running back? He's not going to like it. He's going to balk at it. Now you've got a player whose greatest skill is really to run with the ball in his hands. And, half of those touches could come as a running back. Well, now what if you can't use him that way? So, I mean, I just think that this thing is problematic on a lot of fronts, and it comes down to poor communication. I really think, and I mentioned this earlier today when I was talking to Grant Cohn about this, is I just think that the 49ers are operating. Everybody's got a different standard. I think Kyle's scoreboard is the wins and the losses. I think John's scoreboard are the wins and the losses and trades that he makes. He wants to make sure he wins trades. And I think Parag's scoreboard is what he gets the players to play for, and ultimately, when they started using Deebo as a running back, there should have been some dialogue between Parag and John and Kyle saying, hey, you know what? You guys know that this is going to both devalue him because running backs aren't paid like wide receivers, and it's going to put us in a position where we almost have to go all in on paying this guy top shelf. Otherwise, why is he going to continue running the ball? And so it's a unique player, but it's also because of the unique skill set of the player creating a unique set of hurdles in getting this contract done and going forward as a team and an entity, as a player and as a team, and being on the same page. So, we never heard Deebo say that he was not happy with his usage in season because Deebo's about winning. Deebo said, hey, I can run the ball and that's going to help us win. But I think the unspoken part of that is I'll do you this solid, but you got to do me right in contract negotiations and pay me at least among the elite wide receivers in the game. And it sounds like Parag Marate doesn't have any designs on doing that. You look at the guaranteed money the Niners have thrown out in contracts during this era, they've never approached anything close to $72 million guaranteed. So I think it's a situation that Parag wants to win the negotiation. I think he probably needed to do a lot more politicking with the agent, with the player, and a lot more loving him up, outside of the negotiations. And instead, you've got a player that looks like he's kind of turned on the team and suddenly doesn't like his usage. Suddenly he doesn't like the way they're utilizing him. And I think it has everything to do with the dollar amount being offered or lack thereof.
It's pretty amazing that every team in the NFL now is looking for the next Deebo, while the original Deebo doesn't want to be Deebo anymore in usage. So that's a fun little nugget there for the 49ers and how they'll figure that out. And if, now carries are going to have to be a part of a bonus structure for his new contract or something like that. So we'll find out what that looks like if the 49ers are able to get a deal done. Next, Larry, I want to ask you what you think it would take. If you were John Lynch, what would a team have to give you for you to give up a star player like Deebo Samuel that meant so much to the 49ers offense? And then we're going to talk day 3 draft prospects coming up here shortly. But first, I want to let the folks out there know about Blue Nile. At BlueNile.com, you can celebrate all of life's special moments, from creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams to gifting a classic and timeless jewelry piece, all at prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. Whether she prefers a statement piece or everyday subtle elegance, BlueNile.com has fine jewelry options for every mom. Shop high-quality classic diamond earrings, elegant tennis bracelets, or gemstones pendant necklaces as well. And look, if you're looking for fine jewelry and you're having trouble choosing, which I definitely do anytime I'm choosing that type of a gift, Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find the right gift, the memorable gift you're looking for at every budget. So this Mother's Day, give mom something she'll treasure forever with fine jewelry from BlueNile.com and Locked On 49ers. Listeners get $50 off a $500 purchase. This podcast exclusive is only good through Mother's Day. Again, use promo code Locked On. That's code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't ever give away what's inside. So shop stress-free and find your forever peace. Go to BlueNile.com today. All right. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. All of the draft coverage happening here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Crocker and the Locked On NFL Drafts live coverage starting Thursday, April 28th. Tune into that, plus the ultimate mock draft hosted by myself and former NFL and college scout Matt Williamson of the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show all week long this week leading up to the first pick. What would it take, Larry? I am the Jets. Croc is the Eagles or the Saints. We're calling you as John Lynch making offers for Deebo Samuel. What would that offer take? What do you need to move off of Deebo Samuel?
Well, it's really interesting. I just looked at the odds, and the Colts are the team that is favored to land Deebo. The Colts.
That doesn't make any sense. They don't even have a first-round pick. They got no shot. Right.
I mean, I can't even imagine what the Colts. I mean, I guess I want Quinton Nelson, and we'll start right there. I think from the Jets, I would give the Jets a choice. I want 4, and I'll take your second round pick, or I want 10, and I want both your second round picks and a 7.
Ooh.
That's what I want. I either want you give me that 4th pick in the draft and one of your seconds, probably the second of your seconds, or I want the 10th and both seconds, and I want a day 3 pick as well.
I love that. So 10 plus 35 plus 38, and those picks aren't far from the first round. And from what I understand, those picks 35 and 38 have been offered for multiple wide receivers, including Tyreek Hill and probably for Deebo Samuel. Those 2 second rounders, okay, cool. They're close to first rounders, but they're not first rounders. I need something big if I'm the 49ers. So I think you're on the right track, Larry. And I don't know if a team like the Jets could pay that, because look, any team's going to be trading for Deebo Samuel. And Croc, we talked a little bit about this on the live Wednesday show, right? If you're trading for Deebo Samuel, you're trading for the guy who can carry the ball too. So if you've got problems trading the ball or running the ball, I don't know if you're going to trade for that. I don't know if you're going to pay for that player. And maybe it's just that Deebo Samuel doesn't have a problem running the ball once he's paid. But right now, he's just telling you, look, if you're going to tell me in negotiations that me doing what's best for my football team hurts my salary, then why would I do the best for my football team?
Also, I mean, you have to sign him, right? I mean, you have to extend him. I'd assume that he's not going to, or a team's not going to trade for a player who they have to figure out contract negotiations for as well. Mm-hmm. So whatever team who would potentially trade for him and give up all that draft capital, you're going to have to make him one of the highest paid receivers in the National Football League. So there's that aspect to it as well.
Yep, absolutely. He has to agree.
I was just going to say the Jets did enter the offseason with $55 million in cap room, and they also have the longest playoff drought in the entire league. They haven't been to the playoffs in 11 years. And Joe Douglas is in year 3 of his regime, and he's stated like about 5 different times this offseason that he's got to consider any and all trade avenues, because he knows that, they went 4-13 last year. And he's done at the end of the year if they don't have a significant turnaround. So they last year was about the quarterback. This year's got to be about helping the quarterback. They already drafted Mekhi Becton the year before as a tackle. So you got to think receiver is their primary focus, and they can go roll the dice in the draft for one of these receivers. But Deebo Samuel's a sure thing. So to me, the price should be pretty high.
So I have a question. So knowing that what they offered to Tyreek Hill, right? I mean, it was picks 35, 38, 69. I think on the draft chart thing, it was roughly picked 10th overall. But they're not going to give that up. They want to give up those several picks. If you are the 49ers, do you just automatically say no way to that Maybe they throw in a future pick next year, a second round pick, but there's no first round pick involved for Deebo Samuel. And one thing we've seen from the 49ers, especially when you consider not just the Jimmy Garoppolo situation, but even going back to like Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard, where teams offer something, right? There are trade offers for Beathard and Mullins, and they're like, oh no, we value our quarterbacks more than that. And you really, I mean, they're backup guys, and they held on to him because it didn't meet their standards. Then you look at the Jimmy Garoppolo situation, and they haven't really been able to move off of him yet. And then now you have Deebo Samuel, who's telling you, I want to be traded. Do you hold on to him if it doesn't match quite exactly what you feel like you should be getting?
Well, it's funny, Eric. I don't think the Tyreek comparison is a good one from the standpoint of Tyreek's had problems off the field. Deebo has not. Tyreek, they've already paid Mahomes and we're up against the cap, and Tyreek was a current free agent. The 49ers aren't in that mode. They're not in that desperation mode. They have Deebo under contract this year at $4.5 million. Now, I know and you know that that's not a workable situation, and bringing him back at that dollar figure is going to create more acrimony. But they're not in the same spot as the Chiefs. They don't have Mahomes making what on their payroll. They've got Jimmy there, but theoretically they could move him and will. But they're not in the same spot. The Chiefs didn't have leverage, and the Chiefs didn't have time, and the Chiefs also dealt with a player that had a spotty record away from the field. This is not Tyreek Hill. This is a player who I think is greater value than Tyreek Hill for the reasons I just laid out. And so I think that while it's interesting to look at what they offered for Tyreek, I don't think that should be a starting price for Deebo. I think the starting price for Deebo's got to be higher because he's younger, he's a cleaner prospect, and you've got time to have him this year at $4.5 million and negotiate out a long-term deal where Tyreek was like, he was going to get paid right now. So I think the circumstances are different enough where the 49ers asking price for Deebo should be higher than what Kansas City asked for Tyreek. Am I reading that wrong or
no? Yeah, and to put that answer simpler, Croc, they don't offer 10. You say get the hell out of here. Like that's what would be my answer. Yeah, you got to be given.
And that sounds like that would be the 49ers answer as well right now.
Absolutely.
Well, and the Jets have the longest playoff drought in the league. You know what? Joe Douglas, you don't like that offer, or call me next year when you're the GM of another team.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And who knows? Deebo's going to want to go there too. Does Deebo want to go to a team that's got a playoff drought that spans my entire life just about? So that's going to be interesting with Deebo Samuel. I'm sure more nuggets of information will come out every single day with that. And that's why Croc and I are on here every single day talking about your San Francisco 49ers. But next, we got to talk draft strategy and day 3 picks. I know Larry Krueger's got a bunch of them just ready to rattle off. The old scout in him loves it. He's got the opportunity to watch all of that tape and let us know about all of his favorite day 3 picks coming up. I want to talk about betonline.net first, though. And you heard those odds earlier. Colts, best odds for Deebo Samuel's next landing spot. Next is the Jets at 5-1. Then the Chiefs are 5.5-1, as are the Saints 5.5-1. And the Packers are 6-1. The Eagles are 8-1. And all those teams, except for the Colts, have 2 first-round picks. So, yeah, Colts could get the hell out of here with their non-first-round pick if they're trying to find Deebo Samuel. You can find those odds. You can find draft props. You can find NFL futures at BetOnline, your number one source for all your betting stats and sports information. Not just football, though. You've got all the latest sports development and news, league reviews, NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball season is now underway, esports, and tons more at BetOnline. So get over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action at BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, Larry, real quick. Again, you're wearing the hat of John Lynch. What's your day 2 strategy? And then let's start talking about some day 3 prospects. Just real quick strategy. You think you're just going a group of positions, BPA at 61 and 93 and 105? Are you trying to move around a little bit? What do you think day 2?
And then this is in a world where Deebo is staying or leaving?
Deebo's still on the roster. No trade of Deebo Samuel as of draft day, because I don't want to start talking about pick 10 and 35 quite yet.
Okay. I mean, I would say when I get to 61, I'm looking for three things. Best player available who's falling, because almost every mock draft that I've done, there's been somebody that I had in the 20s that's there at 60. Because once you get past 15, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And there's a huge gap with a lot of players that have similar grades. So you may have a guy in the third round that somebody else takes late first, or you may have a guy, in 18th overall, and that guy's there at 61. So I don't think that's unreasonable. So I'm looking to see best player available who falls. And then I'm also looking at a couple of positions in need. Free safety, I think, would be one for me. And possibly edge rusher, or maybe the right offensive lineman or the right running back. I'm looking, but I'm probably thinking best player available. And to me, if they went best player available, basically throughout this draft, that probably is their best game plan. That would be the way I look at it. I think anytime you're reaching for need, that's how you wind up with the AJ Jenkins of the world. You just can't go for need. It's just not, some drafts there might be, there could be 10 impact running backs, and, do you want to, and you need a free safety, and there might be only 2 impact free safeties, and maybe they're both off the board. Are you going to go for that third free safety, who you have a mid-round grade on at 61, as opposed, just because you have a need there, as opposed to, it's a 53-man roster, and there's a lot of injuries in this sport. So I think more than anything, what they really need, you say, what do they need at 61? They need a great player. They need a great player. They need somebody who's going to be one of the 5 or 6 best players on their roster. And I think that's going to be possible. I think there'll be really good players that fall to them.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see that one player that falls. DK Metcalf a couple of years ago. Last year, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was a first-round guy all day, and he was there in the 50s for the Cleveland Browns. Croc already saw his eyebrows perk up when Larry said free safety. Croc is a big Ward fan, as am I, but you're thinking move Ward to strong safety, right, Larry? That's where the free safety need comes in for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can find, you guys know this. I mean, you can find box safeties in every round of the draft and after the draft. The deep, when you're going to play cover 3, man, that free safety who can cover the deep middle is a hugely important player. And when you don't have that player, you almost have to change your defense. So Jimmy Ward mans that role right now, and I think he's really good at it. But I also think he's physical enough to play in the box. And I personally would like to, I'm a big fan of Nick Cross from Maryland. I would love to see, and I think he'll be there at 61. And that might be even a little bit of a reach. You might be able to trade back a few spots and get Nick Cross from 61. But I like the idea of adding a couple safeties in this draft, a free safety that allows Jimmy to play in the box, and then give me a day 3 strong safety. And I say that because I'm looking at the rest of those guys. I look at Hufanga as a strong safety guy solely and as a special teamer. I think Tarvarius Moore is a corner who's a special teamer, and I don't see him as a starting caliber safety. So, if you don't see either of those guys as potential free safeties, then who's your free safety? If it's not Jimmy, it's Dante Johnson. He's been a street free agent the last couple of years. So to me, that safety that can in a game where you got a 70% plus sub package game plan, I gotta have another coverage man at safety, and I like Cross.
Niners have a ton of picks, rounds 4 through 7. I don't know if you have a pick for Mr. Irrelevant. We're going to run a Mr. Irrelevant contest here on Locked On 49ers, but anywhere in there, a day 3 guy, who are some of your day 3 favorite prospects for the 49ers, Larry, or for any team?
Well, I mean, I think this is an incredible draft for wide receivers. I mean, this is the 3rd year in a row we've seen great wide receivers potentially in the 3rd round. I like Bayless Jones Jr., who played at Tennessee. He's going to be there in the 3rd round, guys, not because of his play, because he's one of the older prospects in the draft. This guy's got a undergraduate degree already from SC. He's got a master's degree already from Tennessee. In a lot of ways, he's a Deebo Samuel type player. He's a kick returner. He's a wide receiver. He's a running back. I mean, he's a 4.3 guy. He's got tremendous acceleration. He's about 200 pounds. He's really solidly built. I love Bayless Jones Jr., and I think because of his age, he's going to be there in the 3rd round. I love Tanner Connor, a wide receiver from Idaho State, who is 6'3", 235, and is almost like a tight end, except his workout numbers were just crazy good. I mean, I think he ran 4.33 at 235 pounds. Really like him on day 3.
Yeah, Bayless Jones, you weren't lying about him being a little older. I didn't know this detail on him, but he's currently 24 years old, and in less than a month, he turns 25.
Yeah,
that is definitely a little bit older for an incoming prospect.
Bayless Jones went to college longer than I did, which is saying something, because I don't know anybody who got a bachelor's degree that went to school longer than I did. And yeah, Bayless Jones even got his master's too. So yeah, weird late breakout age, or kind of non-breakout for Bayless Jones, but all the athleticism in the world. Would like to see if Kyle Shanahan could unlock a little bit more out of Bayless Jones. If he's there day 3, I think that'd be a fantastic fit for the 49ers. Could do a lot for that offense. Have you watched, Larry? One of my favorites, and somebody I know the 49ers have been interested in and met with, is D'Angelo Malone from Western Kentucky. You know, when some of those speed rushing defensive ends, if the 49ers want to go that route, and it looks like they've kind of added enough bodies to where that's probably not where they're going to be headed at pick 61. But if you like Nick Bonito and you like Drake Jackson on day 2, maybe on day 3, if D'Angelo Malone out of Western Kentucky's around, he's got a ton of athleticism coming off the edge and some length, really looks the part. And I know there's an edge rusher down at UAB that you like a lot as well, and Alex Wright.
Yeah. I mean, D'Angelo Malone, I think, is perfect for this wide 9 front. You know, there's weakness in his game against the run, but in the wide 9, you know, you're so far outside, and Coach Eric just wants you to, you know, burn the corner and just you know, get that edge, go upfield and hunt quarterbacks. This guy ran a 4.5 in the private workout, and his issues against the run, I think, are not going to be as big a deal on a team that likes to run that wide 9. I mean, what the Niners really need opposite Bosa is they need somebody who can absolutely threaten the edge, and do it with speed. And if you can counter back inside, great. But I want an elite edge speed guy, and he's about 245 pounds, but he's got a frame to put on more. I would say you could probably by year 2 get him up to 255, and he's running in the mid 4.5s, and the 10-yard split's incredible. So he comes firing out of a cannon. I really love D'Angelo Malone, but this is a really, Amare Barno from Vatech runs in the 4.3s. And if you watch him on film, you can see that speed, the way he can flatten and close to the quarterback. I mean, he's electric. So, this is a great draft for edge rushers. And I think in that 3rd, 4th, 5th round range, there's going to be a number of options there. Alex Wright, 270-pound guy from UAB. Another guy, rushes the passer, bigger bodied defensive end, a little bit better against the run. But he's another guy who's got great wheels and plays with a ton of fire. So the one thing I love about this crop of edge rushers is there's a bunch of guys who don't just have the skills and the speed, but there's some tremendous motors. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Michael Clemens from Texas A&M. Clemens has got some off-field issues that need to be kind of investigated, but I think those off-field issues are going to cause him to fall into a round where he's going to be a steal. I think Michael Clemens can be there in the 4th or 5th round. And, I'm an A&M fan. I watch A&M football every Saturday. This guy is the real deal. I mean, he absolutely is. And if he's there in the 5th round, that's a steal.
I want to talk about a prospect out of LSU that Croc likes. Have you watched Cordell Foltz, who the 49ers, I didn't even realize this because I know this is one of Croc's favorite day 3 type of cornerbacks. He actually met with the 49ers that I didn't realize.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and Croc likes Foltz. Have you watched Foltz yet, Larry?
Haven't really done any deep dive on a lot of the day 3 corners. Cornerback is an interesting position for the 49ers because you can get caught up on some workout numbers. I mean, you got to be able to see, can the guy play man-to-man coverage? Is he a player or is he an athlete? And there's a big difference when you're trying to mirror NFL caliber receivers up and down the field. You need more than just athleticism. You need man-to-man coverage skills. You have to be able to mirror a great athlete and go step for step. And that means you need quickness, agility, balance, strength. You need the total package. This draft, the day 3 corner that I kind of like is Darion Kendrick from Georgia, who is a tremendous player, did it in the biggest conference in the country, but didn't have a great workout time. I mean, his workout 40 time was like 4.7 something. But if you watch the film, you can see he plays much faster than that. So to me, there's a couple guys like that. Marcus Jones from Houston is a small corner who's also a return guy. Now he's 5'8", and because he's 5'8", I mean, there are NFL teams guys that if you're not 5'10", you're not on their board. I mean, there's teams that really believe very strictly in the height requirement of a corner in their defense. So I think there'll be some teams that won't have Marcus Jones on the board at 5'8" and change, and I think he's an incredible talent. So I'd be looking for the player who, for whatever reason, fell. Either he lacked the measurables, as opposed to he's got the measurables, but how does he play? You know what I mean? Right. I want to make sure I'm drafting good football players than athletes. I want to draft football players and not project athletes to the football field.
I mean, get that tattooed on my chest, man. Draft good players. That's what it's all about. And you get caught up in so many things with the NFL draft, and there's needs, and then it's like, oh no, this guy's got this one flaw and this guy's got another flaw. Are these guys ballers? Draft some ballers, and in every single round, and you're going to be a very good football team in the NFL for a long time. I love that. That was it. Last one for you, Larry, because we're running out of time here. Do you have a guess? Do you have a pick for Mr. Irrelevant, the 262nd pick, I believe it is, in this year's draft for the 49ers?
Nick Starkel, quarterback, former San Jose State.
Yes.
I like Nick Starkel. He's 6'4", he's 210. They had him in on the local pro day because he played at San Jose State. He's a great kid. He's a good leader. That third quarterback, who's that third quarterback going to be? I think it's going to be Nick Starkel. He throws a number of the NFL passes just as good as any player in this draft. And he's a hardworking kid. He's got good size. He's got good athleticism, about 6'4", 210, can make all the throws. I think he's been looked over a little bit. Started at A&M, transferred to San Jose State, had a really nice year at San Jose State. And I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's got a lot of the intangibles.
Love it. Nick Starkel. Nobody can take Nick Starkel now in our Mr. Irrelevant contest. That is Larry Krueger's alone. Croc and I will have our picks for Mr. Irrelevant coming up here before draft day. Make sure, everybody, you go follow Larry at Sports Larry K on Twitter and check out the Krug Show on YouTube. Fantastic stuff, Larry. Pleasure chatting with you. Thanks for joining the show today.
Brad, Eric, thanks for having me on. Anytime. Love to come on again. It was a real pleasure.
Beautiful.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks everybody for making us your first listen. Make sure you're checking out the Krug Show. Make sure you're checking out Peacock and Williamson, and make sure you're checking out Eric Crocker on Locked On NFL Draft. Croc and I back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.